The street magician escaped from handcuffs in seconds. The CIA agent froze. This wasn't an ordinary magic trick. This was professional escape training. Welcome to Delta Files. Before we dive into this powerful story of hidden skills, covert operations, and unexpected expertise, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. Times Square was always crowded, but David Martinez had found his perfect spot near the red steps where tourists gathered to watch street performers. For 3 years, he'd been performing magic tricks, escape acts, and illusions that never failed to amaze audiences and earn decent tips from impressed visitors. David was exactly what tourists expected from a New York street magician: charismatic, entertaining, and skilled enough to make people forget they were watching someone who needed their dollar bills to survive. His specialty was escape artistry: handcuffs, ropes, chains, locks. Nothing seemed to hold him for more than a few seconds. CIA Operations Officer Sarah Chen was in Manhattan for a routine security briefing at the Federal Building. Walking through Times Square during her lunch break, she noticed the crowd gathered around David's performance and decided to watch. What she saw made her blood run cold. David was performing what appeared to be a standard handcuff escape routine. A volunteer from the audience, an off-duty NYPD officer, had secured David's hands with regulation police handcuffs, the kind used for actual arrests, not stage props. "Ladies and gentlemen," David announced, "I'll escape from these handcuffs in under 30 seconds. Sarah watched with professional interest. As a CIA operative trained in escape and evasion techniques, she knew the difference between magic tricks and real escape skills. David turned his back to the audience for privacy, then began working on the handcuffs. Sarah observed his body positioning, hand movements, and timing. 15 seconds later, David spun around with the handcuffs open in his hands. The crowd applauded, but Sarah was horrified. She just watched someone demonstrate escape techniques that belonged in CIA training facilities, not on street corners. Real handcuff escape required specific knowledge of locking mechanisms, precise finger positioning, and techniques that took months of professional training to master. David had just performed a skill set that was classified in most government agencies. After the show, Sarah approached David as he packed his equipment. "Impressive escape work," she said casually. "Thanks, been practicing for years." "Those were real police handcuffs. Most street magicians use props." David looked at her more carefully. "Real cuffs make the trick more convincing. They also make it exponentially more difficult. Where did you learn those techniques?" David's expression became guarded. "YouTube mostly. Magic forums online." But Sarah knew better. The escape techniques she'd witnessed required hands-on training from experts who understood the mechanical vulnerabilities of restraint devices. "David, right? I'm Sarah. I work in security consulting. Your escape skills are remarkably advanced." "Just lots of practice." Sarah decided to test him. "Have you ever been restrained with zip ties? Much harder to escape than handcuffs." David's response told Sarah everything she needed to know. Zip ties require different techniques. You have to create space during application, then use friction and body heat to stretch the plastic while maintaining blood flow to prevent nerve damage. Sarah stared at him. David had just described advanced CIA escape training methodology. "David, where did you really learn those techniques?" David was quiet for a long moment, then made a decision. "Not here, too public." They walked to a quieter section of Central Park. David checked for surveillance before speaking. CIA Operations Division, 2015 to 2020, specialized in escape and evasion training for deep cover operatives. Sarah's mind raced. David wasn't just a street magician. He was a former CIA operative with classified training. "Why street magic?" "Because after 5 years of real operations, I wanted to use my skills for something that made people happy instead of—" David trailed off. "Instead of what?" "Instead of escaping from actual enemy custody." Sarah understood. David had been captured during operations and used his training to survive. "What happened?" David was quiet for several minutes. "Syria, 2019. Deep cover operation went wrong. Captured by hostile forces, held for 6 days, used every escape technique I'd ever learned to get out alive." "You escaped enemy custody?" "3 times. They kept upgrading restraints, I kept getting out. Finally extracted on day 6, but," David gestured to his street performance setup, "hard to go back to desk work after that." Sarah realized David was dealing with trauma by using his survival skills in safe, controlled environments where escape meant applause instead of life-or-death survival. "David, You know your techniques are classified, right? Demonstrating CIA escape methods in public could be problematic. I've modified everything. What people see are simplified versions that look impressive but don't reveal actual operational methodology. But someone with training could recognize the underlying techniques. Someone like you? Sarah nodded. What's your current status with the agency? Retired, full pension, clean record, no ongoing obligations. But you're still using classified skills. David looked at his magic equipment. Sarah, I spent 5 years learning how to escape from people who wanted to kill me. Now I use those skills to entertain families and make children laugh, which seems like a better use of the training. Sarah considered this. David had found a way to transform survival skills learned in warfare into entertainment that brought joy to civilians. Have you considered consulting work? Teaching escape techniques to current operatives? The agency offered. I declined. Why? Because I don't want to teach people how to escape from death anymore. I want to show them how to escape into wonder. Sarah spent the next hour watching David perform for tourists. She observed how he'd adapted genuine CIA escape techniques into safe, entertaining demonstrations that amazed audiences without revealing classified methodology. A week later, Sarah returned with a proposal from her superiors. David, the agency would like to discuss a consulting arrangement, not operational training, something different. What kind of different? Entertainment, morale events for agents' families, holiday parties, community outreach, using your skills to build positive relationships between the agency and civilian communities. David considered the offer. I keep doing street magic, but also help the CIA with happy stuff. Exactly. Show kids that people who work in national security are normal humans who can make handcuffs disappear. David smiled. I like that better than making people disappear. 6 months later, David had developed a unique role as the CIA's community magician. He performed at agency family events, school visits, and public outreach programs, using modified versions of his escape training to create positive impressions of government service. You know, Sarah told David after watching him perform for a group of elementary school students, this might be the best use of CIA training I've ever seen. David bowed dramatically after making a locked box open with theatrical flair. Magic should make people feel safe, not afraid. Escape should lead to applause, not to survival. Now I ask you, have you ever watched a performer whose skills seemed too real, too professional for entertainment? Someone whose abilities suggested training that went far beyond show business? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful magic is transforming skills learned in darkness into light that brings joy to others. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and help us honor those who find ways to use their most serious training to create the most innocent happiness.